If y'all saw my last YouTube video, you know that people didn't like how I pronounced Greedent. Hey everyone, I hope the start of Season 9 is going well for y'all. Kicking off this season, we're going to give Great League Remix another shot. If you saw my last Great League Remix video, you'll know that I ran a Shadow Lapras with Froslass and Shadow Machamp to pretty high success, climbing all the way up to number 6 on the leaderboard. And in this time around for Great League Remix, they decided to ban Sableye and Jellicent and unban Toxicroak and Meganium for the meta. Overall, I think this makes my team even stronger because Jellicent was a huge issue for the team, especially in the lead, and Sableye overall was just kind of annoying for my whole team to deal with. Toxicroak and Meganium can be slight issues, but I don't expect to see those run nearly as often in the meta, so that's why I think that this team is going to be even stronger. So let's see how it does against the meta. Before I get into the video, a big shout out and thank you to all my patrons who've been supporting my content creation. If you'd like to have early access to some of my strategies and lineups or see behind the scenes footage of my battles, feel free to sign up in the link down below. So I'm going to showcase a lot of battles I faced using this team pretty much on my climb up. So even though some of these are at lower rank levels, you still run into some pretty impressive opponents throughout, depending on the luck of draw. Obviously, I ran into a good number of random people using Phalanx, Scythers, very interesting stuff. I excluded that from the video just because those monsters are much easier to deal with, and they probably aren't very representative of high skilled players. I should say high skilled, but more experienced players in GPL that you will probably run into and have more difficulties against. Alright, so my opponent here does decide to double shield here, which is kind of interesting. I do have to shield this Icy Wind. I know it's an Icy Wind, but unfortunately I need health on my Machamp here. So obviously against Charmers, you definitely want to stay in the lead, and I'm going to just throw this Cross Chop right away just so I don't get hit with another Icy Wind. I know this Ninetales has to throw energy to take out my Machamp, so they do throw their Weather Ball here, and then I'm just hoping I get to the Shadow Ball in time and able to still take out the Ninetales. So definitely a tricky matchup for sure, but despite the positive lead. But my opponent definitely kept it quite close, even though they didn't have lead advantage. Alright, going against Ariados, kind of a different Pokemon that you wouldn't usually expect, but it's actually kind of annoying for this team. Those debuffing lunges really make Lapras kind of hard to use. Luckily, I do get to this last surf here, and I'm able to put it quite low. So my main goal here with Froslass is just farm it down. Unless it's running, I believe it's on Shadow Sneak, which most are not running it, I could just Power Snow this down without worrying about having to shield anything. Slight lag there, but I don't think it makes a huge difference for this battle, and this is why. So they come in Dragonair here, don't shield the Cross Chop, and then here I come in with my own Cross Chop here to either finish off the Machamp, grab their shield. So I have 2 shields at this point. Even if I somehow dropped the shield earlier, there should be more than enough to take out the Machamp here. I probably should have gone for Shadow Ball there, a little bit more damage, but Avalanche is plenty right there. Alright, Drapion, I'm trying to think. So last season, it already had its buff, so definitely not something new for this team. But it is quite strong against my Froslass, so I am going to have to stay in this matchup and at least grab some shields here. So my opponent actually does swap straight to a Poliwrath here, which is kind of interesting. And this is actually really bad for my team. I didn't really realize this is the first Poliwrath I faced, but Scald actually makes this Froslass matchup with Poliwrath really tough. Before, Froslass would be able to wall off this Poliwrath, but unfortunately, unless they're running Hydro Pump, but unfortunately with Scald, it actually has a pretty solid matchup against Froslass, which is unfortunate. So my opponent here, hopefully, if they didn't go Crunch It, I would have survived. And yeah, Cofagrigus in the back, this is really tough. Also Numon, and very strong against this team too. You definitely want to see in the lead if possible. So this is definitely one of my losses here. It's not too much I can do at this point. Even if I bait with this Cross Chop, they are going to get to Shadow Ball before I can get to another Cross Chop or a Rock Slide. So yeah, so definitely really well played by my opponent there, and really surprised me with that Scald Poliwrath. Definitely won't make that same mistake again, but I think the play there's probably come into the Poliwrath with my Machamp, but at the same time they had the Cofagrigus in the back, which would have been able to handle the Froslass too. Alright, so Shadow Lapras in the lead. That's an interesting one. So I noticed my opponent went CMP here, so I need to catch a Skull Bash here to really save some energy, and hopefully this will work, and it fortunately does. Grabbed all that energy from the opposing Lapras, which is huge. Now I'm able to land an Avalanche here, so this is actually really nice. I do grab Shield, but I should be able to do a decent amount of damage with these Powder Snows, and my opponent does correctly decide to throw right away. I'm not too worried here. I have Lapras with almost 2 surfs ready. The opposing Lapras doesn't have any energy because they threw all their energy at my Froslass. And then now I could take out this opposing Lapras with a Surf, and they still have the build to a Skull Bash. I knew that they weren't going to throw right away. And then here comes a Beedrill. This is actually kind of strong against my team. So I know I survived an X-Scissor, so I'm just going to just tank this X-Scissor. I need my shield. Now, the hope is either they shield here, or they don't shield and I counter down. So they don't shield, so I'm going to counter down. If they did shield, I'm going to just take it out with a Rock Slide when shields are down. So at this point, I know I'm not going to get to 2 moves, so I'm just going to counter all the way down there. Alright, Abomasnow lead. Definitely a trickier lead, but I do swap here and throw the Avalanche right away to really put on some pressure against this Abomasnow. They do shield, and I'm going no shield here. Probably a bait, and it is. Even if it's an Energy Ball, I should be able to survive that. And now they come in Empoleon here. So 2 checks to Lapras right off the bat, but they don't shield there, which is quite nice. So I think my play here is to just soak up the Drill Pecks. Drill Pecks are going to hurt a lot more on Machamp, and then they actually come in Golbat here. So obviously they should have a Machamp counter if they have a Abomasnow in the lead and an Empoleon on the back. And here it is. So at this point, I'm okay with it. They go Shadow Ball there, so I wonder if they're not running Poison Fang? I don't know. Poison Fang would have definitely been enough. By the way, even if they were, at this point, I know I'm just going to just farm up a bunch of energy here. Potentially a Weather Ball here, but that's fine. I get to the Skull Bash, able to boost my defense by quite a bit. And then now I can finish off the Golbat there too. Cofagrigus, so definitely something that you want to stay in against. Very strong against Machamp, also quite strong against Froslass, just with those Shadow Claws doing a ton of damage. Yeah, still beats a Lapras too in most situations. So I do a shield once every time, just so I could put it in a range where I could potentially Powder Snow it down with my Froslass, and able to grab that second shield too, which is huge. So they barely finished me off here, but I know they can't build up to another Shadow Ball. I do take a lot of super effective damage from the Shadow Claws, but Froslass, in my opinion, is much better with energy than Machamp is. So they actually don't shield that, which is kind of interesting. So I'm going to counter down, and then they're going to concede because they have a Diggersby in the back. Again, if you watch my previous video on this line, this team just beats Diggersby in all fronts. My opponent here comes in with a Dugong into my Froslass, which is interesting. They definitely don't want the Dugong matched up against my Lapras, so I totally understand why they did this. But it does put them in a situation because they probably have to shield if they want to win this match. So they are going straight Icy Wind, which I think is probably the best play. Water Pulse, although it's neutral, it's a really bad move, and Icy Wind's just a much better move. So with a debuff and the better move of Icy Wind, even resisted, still probably better. Now I'm in a good spot here. I don't mind this at all. I'm going to just Ice Shard this Dugong down, farm up a bunch of energy. They can debuff me. It's going to do pretty much no damage. And then we'll have some energy for that Machamp coming in. With the shield advantage, I feel pretty good having 2 Surfs ready on this Machamp. So I'm going to throw 1 here, and then probably swap over, because I am debuffed, and I do grab a shield, so that's absolutely huge. Now, shields down, this Rock Slide is going to hurt quite a bit against the Golbat, and then against this Machamp, I just need to throw 1 Surf, I'm fine. Honestly, I still have 2 shields? Yeah, I still have 2 shields, so it wasn't going to be a big deal either way. Alright, Froslass in the lead. Again, Shadow Lapras is very good against this meta, especially in the lead. There's a few things that do beat it for sure, what I found is that I'm often winning lead more than anything, more than not. And with a Froslass in the back as well, if they do have a poison or flyer and stuff, even if they swap out of something else, sometimes you could stay in if they swap into a non-ideal counter swap and still handle their flyer or their grounds or poisons with Froslass in the back after. Alright, so I like to shield that first Shadow Ball. Most do not bait there, but that just makes the matchup a little bit easier for me down the road. They do come in with that poison as expected because they didn't really swap out earlier, which means that they're probably weak to Ice again in the back. Now, they went straight for Earth Power, so I know they can't get to another one. I'm going to farm up a bunch of energy here. Having back-to-back avalanches against a Swilas is definitely bad news for the Swilas. I did have a Machamp there too, so it would have been a done deal either way. But yeah, Froslass with energy, always very, very strong in most situations. Alright, another very positive lead. My opponent's going straight Poison Fang right off the bat, so no need for me to shield. And they actually come in Regiseal. So I always shield this because it just makes the matchup a little more comfortable. I think you barely survive it if you have a good ranked Machamp. And I also don't throw the Cross Chop right away. This way I can maximize the farm a little bit because I know I can't take it out with one Cross Chop anyway. And I still have the shield, so might as well just over farm and then throw later on. So my opponent here comes in with a Mantine, lets their Nidoqueen go. Surprisingly, they actually don't even shield. Very gutsy on their end. Even though they're in a very unfavorable position. So I go for another bait here, and they still don't shield. So at this point, I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to fast move this guy down if he keeps no shielding. And he does. This person just does not shield, which is fine. I'm just going to let this go because Lapras can tank all these moves, and then they are going to concede the match right there. Galarian Slowbro. Something I've never faced before. I actually didn't really even know the movesets on this. I knew I had Poison Jab and probably Sludge Bomb. I wasn't sure what other coverage moves they probably have. Either way, I decided to tank this move because I figured I could survive at least one, and I do. So now I feel pretty okay. Now the good news about Galarian Slowbro is it doesn't resist water like regular Slowbro does. So these starts actually do add up. Now my opponent actually decides to double shield, which is interesting. So again, if you could come in and farm up with energy, Froslass is the way to go. But also, you're resisting these poisons, these poison jabs, so it's probably a better sign. I'm going to double shield. I haven't seen the second move yet, and it's going to be Psychic, so that would have done a ton of damage. So I'm glad I shielded. I have a fully loaded Froslass. This is actually really bad for my opponent. They actually come in with the Dragonair. So yeah, that's going to near one shot, and then they come in with a Wigglytuff. So this Wigglytuff is actually quite strong against my Machamp and my backline, but with shields down, I can handle it, and again, Shadow Machamp can just take a breather and not really show its face. Alright, Greedent. So Greedent is definitely a newer thing in the meta, quite strong against Froslass, but here's the thing, it actually beats Lapras too. So definitely a core breaker, especially in the lead for this team. Machamp obviously does great against it, but here's my thought process here. Greedent is weak to fighters, so my guess is in the back for any team that has Greedent in the lead, Froslass is going to be quite strong against. So my play is I grab one shield and we come in with Machamp to finish off this Greedent, and then take a move here, save my shields for the Froslass. I actually come in early with Froslass just to get some slight energy lead, because I figured they couldn't have a crunch in time. Maybe they have a body slam, but that's about it. Now here we see the Toxicroak, definitely newer to the meta, and quite strong, but luckily in the backhand against Froslass, it's not as bad, but again, still doing a ton of damage. And then they come in with a Raichu. Yeah, this Raichu is doing a ton of damage. Luckily, I did have enough to get to that Shadow Ball. Do I get to Avalanche? I do not. But at this point, I still have two shields here, so I should be able to take out this Toxicroak just fine with my Machamp, even though it's not a positive matchup. So yeah, Greedent matchups, just stay in. Chances are they're going to be weak to Froslass, so just protect that Froslass. Now this is a weird one. Electrode, not something you see super often, but quite strong against my Lapras lead. Not bad even against Froslass, to be honest, because you have that foul play, and those Volt Switches really charge up energy quickly. Alright, so they come in with the Greedent. I kind of treat Greedent almost like a Lickitung matchup versus Froslass. Froslass does quite well if they don't land their hard-hitting move like Crunch. Same thing with Power Whip from Lickitung, and also you're able to do quite a bit of damage to the Avalanches. So I decided to come in with Machamp here. Machamp with energy, I just didn't want to get hit by, I don't know. I just figured Machamp with energy works a little bit better here. I guess that's my thought process. They actually no shield the rock slide there. I guess if they do shield it, that's fine because I finish off with 2 shields at 0. But this is fine too. Again, Electrode gets energy very quickly, so I need to double up here for sure. And on the surfs, try not to let any of those volt switches sneak through because that's going to be very disastrous. And then I do get this final surf through. I believe they just got to the energy, but because Electrode is using a 4-turn move with Volt Switch and you're only throwing a 3-turn move, I got the energy a little bit sooner than them. But yeah, so that was my run using my Shadow Lapras line and Great League Remix. Overall, I think it's quite strong still in this meta, if not even stronger, especially with the lack of gel sense around in this meta. I think I went over 80% win rates on my first 3 days using this team, so definitely a good one to run. If you like this video, feel free to give it a like and share, subscribe for future content, hit that notification bell if you want to get alerted right when I post a new video, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye. I'll just mess you up. I know it's Greedent.